Depression is a state of staring perpetually at a wall or ceiling of your room and questioning every aspect of its architecture. You may or may not discover any architectural flaw. There's two parts of the brain that are impacted from depression. The first one is amygdala, which is responsible for your emotions, and hippocampus, which stores all the memories. And hippocampus in people with depression is visibly smaller than the people without the illness, and the degree of shrinkage depends upon how long you've been staring at the wall. Diagnosing depression depends on three factors. There's etiology, severity, and duration. Etiology is just a fancy way of saying what is causing the depression or what is the reason behind it. For example, it can be due to grief, withdrawal of drugs, or as a component of a medical problem such as cancer or liver disease. The component of medical problem could mean that there is an emotional reaction to feeling upset about having the disease. That is certainly possible, but also that the medical condition or the treatments can directly affect the brain and body in many ways. Severity is the measure of how debilitating the symptoms are to the person's lifestyle. How much is it impacting the daily life of an individual? Overworking as an escape is also an indication of depression. A few days of sadness are quite normal, but major depression is when you have these feelings for the long term, like the feelings of hopelessness, losing interest in activities that you once loved, significant changes in appetite and weight, having poor sleep quality, which does not necessarily mean sleeping less. In fact, depression usually leads to sleeping more hours than usual. But that doesn't mean that having a good quality sleep, because it interferes with the sleep cycle and causes disruptions in the normal progression of sleep stages. Many young people are being diagnosed with depression over the past century, and there are many reasons for this trend, like increased life stressors, overstimulation from social media, and more people are willing to seek medical attention. But how is depression treated? There's something called Electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, which was introduced in 1938, where we apply a small electrical pulse to the scalp while hoping that you're unconscious under anesthesia. This practice was stopped when safer antidepressants were released in the 1960s, and ECT is only considered when the medications don't work. But antidepressants aren't the best cure for depression either. In fact, there is no cure. Antidepressants today don't work better than the ones developed over 50 years ago, although newer ones have fewer unpleasant downsides. Doing nothing works for about 80% of the people, and they will get back to normal eventually. And only 20 to 30% people will actually need antidepressants. But no one can tell the difference between those who require medication and those who don't. So everybody is going for it. Drugs prescribed today work on reducing the symptoms of depression by being clingy to the neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. If you wish to get rid of social anxiety once and for all, check out my ebook on exposure therapy for social anxiety that contains a step-by-step program that you can follow to gradually expose yourself to social situations and get rid of the fear. You will understand why some of the physiological responses occur, like sweating, increased heart rate, and shaking in situations like public speaking. Having knowledge of why the brain does what it does, you can then follow the program and start seeing instant results. Visit neuromasteryhub.com/exposure and use the code NeuroMastery to get 20% discount. Serotonin helps you feel happy and calm, so think of it as a mood stabilizer. When you have the right amount of serotonin, you feel happy and calm. Low levels of serotonin can lead to feelings of sadness or depression. Dopamine is the feel-good neurotransmitter because it also plays a big role in how we feel pleasure. It's also involved in motivation, reward, and reinforcement of behaviors. And norepinephrine is like the brain's alert system. It helps you stay focused and respond to stress. The medication works by blocking what is known as reuptake. When nerve cells send a signal, they release neurotransmitters like serotonin into the synaptic cleft, which is a tiny gap between neurons. Other neurons will come and pick their favorite neurotransmitter. One is like, I need some serotonin, while the other one says, I would like me some norepinephrine, and they take what they can. But that's only for a short period of time when the original neuron absorbs those neurotransmitters back, and now no neuron can get what they want. This is when you take some medication, which then stops the original neuron from reabsorbing the neurotransmitters, so they stay in the synaptic cleft for longer, and other neurons can proceed to communicate with them for longer as well. That's why these drugs are called selective reuptake inhibitors. They slow the inactivation of neurotransmitters once they're released from the neurons. This prolongs the time they are available to act upon other neurons. If you let your cats out and close the door, they're forced to meet other cats and play a bit more since they cannot get back in the house. But simply because this is how drugs work does not tell us much about how they actually reduce the symptoms of depression. Sleep is the natural antidepressant, especially dream sleep. People who have mental stressors spend more time in dream sleeps than people who are physically exhausted. They spend more time in deep, non-dream sleep. Non-depressed people start dreaming about 2 hours after they fall asleep, while depressed people start dreaming almost immediately. Your brain is saying, oh, you're depressed? Let me play some movies for you in which you are the actor. That'll cheer you up.